Young man loses job opportunity for helping a girl, unaware that she was the CEO's daughter. The afternoon sun burned fiercely over the bustling metropolis of Brixton Ridge, covering every glass tower with a bright, merciless glare. Heat rippled off the streets like waves rising from a desert, and the polished sidewalks reflected sunlight so sharply they nearly blinded passers-by. Cars honked impatiently. Delivery cyclists wove frantically between traffic. Office workers hurried with clipped strides, their eyes fixed on schedules, emails, deadlines, the rhythm of a city that never allowed people to slow down. In the middle of all this motion was Elias Morgan, walking briskly with a mixture of urgency and hope pushing him forward. Today was not just another day. Today was the day. He wore the only truly formal shirt he owned, a white one he had ironed carefully until the creases vanished. His trousers were modest but clean, and the resume clutched in his hand had been rewritten at least 20 times. Every paragraph had been revised until the words felt like part of his heartbeat. This interview at Cobalt Dynamics was his chance, his first real doorway out of the cycle of temporary jobs and late rent notices. As he walked, he could feel his entire life leaning in the direction of that building. But life, as it often does, had plans that didn't match his expectations. Before we continue, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'll love to know how far our stories travel. Back to the story. As he approached Marlin Street crossing, something flickered in the corner of his vision. A young woman, barely in her early 20s, dressed in a striking blue dress, stepped unsteadily into the crosswalk. Her knees buckled as if the ground had given up beneath her. She stumbled, then collapsed forward, her palms slapping against the burning pavement. Her brown hair spilled across her face, trembling slightly in the breeze. People swerved around her without slowing down, as if she were just another obstacle on their path. A few glanced at her from the corner of their eye, but no one stopped. Elias froze. His heart dropped. His interview time ticked away in his pocket. But the sight in front of him spoke louder than every fear he carried. In a single heartbeat, he moved. Elias dashed toward the woman, weaving through startled pedestrians. By the time he knelt beside her, she was trembling violently. "Hey," he said gently. "I'm here. You're going to be okay. Can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered. "I think so." Her words were barely above a whisper. Later, he would learn her name, Lena Hartwell. But at that moment, she was simply a terrified stranger. Her breaths came shallow and fast. Sweat dripped along her temples despite the warm breeze. Her hands shook like leaves in a storm. "I haven't eaten since last night," she whispered. "I didn't think I'd get this dizzy." Her stomach growled weakly, as if confirming her words. Elias looked around. No one offered help. No one stopped. He lifted her gently, guiding her across the street toward a bus stop bench where the shade was thin but still better than the scorching road. As they reached the seat, he positioned himself in front of her to block the sun. "Here," he said, handing her his water bottle. He needed it too. He had been walking in the heat for nearly an hour, but she needed it more. Lena drank shakily, the bottle rattling against her fingers. "Deep breaths," Elias murmured. "You're safe. Stay with me." Minutes passed. 5. 10. 15. Elias checked the time once, then immediately regretted it. His interview window was closing with every second, but he pushed the panic away. His attention stayed on the young woman fighting to stay conscious. Gradually, Lena's breathing steadied. Her color returned a little. She lifted her head, meeting his eyes with a mixture of embarrassment and gratitude. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," Elias said softly. "You needed help." She smiled weakly, almost tearfully. "You're the first person who stopped." He tried not to think about what that said about the world. When the cab arrived, Elias helped her climb inside, steadying her as she sank into the seat. She gave him one last grateful look before the door closed. He stood there for a moment, staring at the departing car. Then he turned around and walked toward whatever remained of his future. By the time Elias reached Cobalt Dynamics, his shirt clung to his back with sweat. The tower stretched above him, enormous and gleaming, like a monument carved from steel and ambition. He hurried inside, breathless. The lobby smelled faintly of polished floors and coffee, a sign of a world far more organized than his own. The receptionist glanced up. "Yes? How may I help you?" Elias cleared his throat. "I'm here for the interview. I know I'm late, but I'll check." Her fingers typed quickly, her eyes scanning the screen. Slowly, her expression softened. "I'm very sorry," she said quietly. "The interviews have ended. The hiring manager left 20 minutes ago." The words hit him like a blow. He felt his chest tighten, felt every ounce of hope drain through the floor. Is there any way I could still speak to someone?" he asked. His voice cracked slightly. She shook her head. "The decision has already been made." Elias nodded numbly. The receptionist gave him a gentle look, the kind reserved for people whose disappointment was too heavy to hide. He left the building slowly, each step heavier than the last. His shadow stretched long along the pavement behind him, almost as if it, too, felt the weight of what he had lost. The days that followed blurred into exhaustion. Elias returned to the rotating wheel of part-time work. Sorting dusty warehouse boxes in the early morning. Delivering packages across the city's narrow alleys. Cleaning office corridors long after midnight. He kept the story to himself, the kindness, the collapse, the interview lost to time. He wasn't the type to brag. And something in him feared people would call him foolish for choosing compassion over opportunity. He didn't regret helping Lena. But he wished, deeply, that kindness counted for something in the real world. Little did he know, life had been paying attention. One Thursday morning, as he finished carrying a package up a narrow apartment stairwell, Elias's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost let it ring out. Unknown numbers usually meant unpaid bills or telemarketers. But something nudged him to answer. "Hello? Good morning. Am I speaking with Elias Morgan?" a formal voice asked. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Marina Cole, Executive Assistant to Dr. Adrian Hartwell, CEO of Cobalt Dynamics." Elias nearly dropped the phone. "We would like you to come to our headquarters today," Marina continued. "This is not an interview. The CEO has personally requested a meeting with you." Elias stood frozen on the dusty stairwell, heart pounding. Within the hour, he was on a bus headed toward the very building where he had faced rejection, only this time, he carried no resume. Just confusion. And hope he was afraid to trust. The CEO's office was breathtaking. Sunlight poured through tall windows that displayed the entire city like a glowing map. The floor gleamed, the furniture was elegant, and everything smelled of wood polish and quiet power. Dr. Adrian Hartwell rose from his desk when Elias entered. He was a tall man with sharp features and tired eyes that held a depth Elias didn't expect. "Thank you for coming, Elias," he said warmly. On a sofa near the window sat a woman he instantly recognized. Lena. But she looked completely transformed, neatly dressed, hair tied back, eyes bright and steady. There was strength in her posture now, not fear. She stood when she saw him. "Elias," she breathed. "I've been waiting to thank you properly." Elias blinked in confusion. "Thank me?" Lena exchanged a glance with her father, then began explaining everything. Her collapse had not been from hunger alone, but from crushing mental pressure. A major company project had failed under her supervision. She had barely slept, convinced she needed to fix everything herself. She had pushed her body past its limits, too overwhelmed to notice she hadn't eaten. When she collapsed that day, she was on her way to deal with the fallout, a situation she believed could damage her father's reputation. Her father had panicked when she didn't return home. Security footage from the bus stop had shown Elias helping her, shielding her, staying with her. Lena had insisted they find him. "We spent days reviewing footage," Lena said softly. "I needed to thank the man who saved my life." Dr. Hartwell leaned forward. "Elias," he said, his voice deep with sincerity, "you made a choice that most people wouldn't have made. You put someone else above your own future. That kind of character is rare." Then he offered something Elias never saw coming. Not the entry-level job he had applied for, but a better position, assistant development coordinator, complete with full training, benefits, and the kind of upward mobility that could reshape an entire life. Elias felt tears sting his eyes. His hands trembled as he accepted the folder the CEO slid across the table. He had lost something precious that day at Marlin Crossing. But fate had returned something even greater. As Elias stepped out of the building, but this time with a contract and a future he had only dared to dream of, he felt something shift inside him. Not just hope. Not just relief. But proof, real proof, that doing good, even when it costs you something, is never truly wasted. Lena shook his hand before he left, her eyes glistening with gratitude. Her father clasped Elias's hand firmly, treating him not as a stranger but as someone who had shown the highest form of integrity. Sometimes life closes a door not to punish us, but to redirect us. Sometimes the universe waits for the smallest act of compassion to reveal the biggest opportunities. And sometimes the kindness you offer in silence becomes the very reason your destiny changes. For Elias Morgan, a single moment of humanity on a blistering afternoon became the turning point of his entire life, a reminder that character is the foundation of every true success. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to this channel to enjoy more heartwarming stories.